All right, we are ready to call the Tuesday, December 29, 2020 Urbandale City Council meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. And I'll ask the clerk to take roll call, please.
Blake?
Here.
Carberry Montgomery?
Here.
Obrecht?
Here.
Pogge?
Here.
Russell?
Here.
Thank you.
All right. If you can please stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Urbandale's a national leader in character counts, endeavoring at all times to promote and model the principles of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. In conducting tonight's meeting, we expect that all participants will act in a respectful manner consistent with these principles. Item 2 is to approve the agenda. I'll ask for a motion and a second.
A motion by Obrecht, second by Carberry Montgomery.
Discussion, please vote. Okay, and that passes. Item 3 is Citizens Forum. This is the opportunity to address the council on something that is not a part of tonight's regular agenda. And I believe we have one gentleman that had asked for some moments ahead of time. Vern, are you on tonight?
If you are on as a call-in user, if you press the star button and the 6 on your phone, it should unmute you from the program. That's star 6.
Vern, are you there? All right, is there anyone else who'd like to address the council on something not a part of tonight's agenda? All right, hearing none, then we're going to move on. Item 4 is the adoption of the minutes from the December 15 meeting. I'm asked for a motion in a second.
A motion by Pogge. Second by Obrecht.
Discussion, please vote.
My vote tally thing went away. Put yes for me, please.
Thank you.
Okay, that passes. Item 4.2 then would be for the special meeting minutes from December 21. Ask for a motion in a second.
I have a motion by Pogge, second by Carberry Montgomery.
Discussion, please vote.
Councilmember Blake, it does look like I lost your connection there. I'm not sure what happened.
Yes for me.
Okay.
My internet's not doing well right now. I'm going to
Okay.
sign out and in again.
Sure.
All right, that passes. And then for the minutes from the December 22 meeting.
The motion by Pogge. Second by Obrecht.
Discussion, please vote.
Blake, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that passes. Thank you. Item 5 is the consent agenda. We have 13 items for approval. I'll ask for a motion in a second.
A motion by Obrecht. Second by Pogi.
Okay, discussion, please vote.
Blake, yes.
Thank you.
And that passes. Item 6, regular agenda items, we move to item 6.1, is the 2021 to 2022 Art Park exhibition selections. And to introduce this item is our Parks and Rec Director, Jan Herke. Jan?
Thank you, Mayor. Member of the council, tonight is our annual Art Park exhibition selection. This is always the Public Art Committee and my favorite meeting of the year when they get to review all the public art selections. This year we had the most applications we've ever had. We had a total of 36 applications. And in December, on December 10th, the committee reviewed all the applications and made the recommendation. So again, it's an 11-month display. So by the end of March, the current sculptures will be removed. And then by the first week of April, the new sculptures will come in. So this is the 8th year that we've had different art at the art park. So it's a pretty neat area there. But tonight, the 4 different sculptures, a recommendation is Sweet Pops of Brilliance by Craig Snyder, Parent and Child by Albert Rhea, Strawberry Fields by James Bearden, and Great Blue Heron by John Camrath. And we're excited to 3 of the 4 are new artists for on display. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Jan. Any questions for Jan?
Hi, Jan, it's Bridget. I just wanted to comment. I love these. I love that we do this. It's a great program, and I think these are especially cool this year, as well as the next item that we're purchasing, all of those.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'll be sure to let the Public Art Committee know.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I'd also say that this program has really grown, I think, in the last several years. I don't know if it's because we're gaining a reputation among artists or whatever, but I definitely think this is headed in the right direction and does a great job.
Yeah, I'll share that one of the things we were able to do, we're collaborating with Clive and West Des Moines, Polk County, and we all have our list of artists that we send out our art park applications to. So we all are sharing those lists because certainly it's a benefit to the artists as well as to the different communities. So that has helped us. We have over 300 artists on that list and different universities as well. So that has certainly helped us with expanding our reach as well.
You did, is Adam. I had a quick question. I mean, you said there's a much more participation, but we haven't changed anything about the program in the past couple of years, have we? Stipend's been the same, timeline's been the same. It just
right. About 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we increased the stipend to $1,500. That is pretty consistent with Clive and West Des Moines. Those are our 2 different areas that have about the same time that they do their call to artists and so forth. So there's not much change to it. We just got more people on our list, and I think people realize the ease of the process, as well as there's no application fee per se, and they have the opportunity for 11 months to display their work, and they know that as what's coming up on the next council agenda is there's opportunities for the city that may purchase some as well. So it's been a win-win for the artists and for the city.
all right, thanks.
Jan, this is Ron. In the past, we've had a student piece of work displayed, and I don't see any of these being that. Are we still doing that, or what's the status of that?
We did until 2 years ago, and then there was a little bit of a change with the school district and the artists and the art program, as well as that involved, oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of the company here in Urbandale that actually fabricated the artwork. So
Quality manufacturing, is that it?
that is it. The $64,000 question. You win.
Good.
But it's more of their the school district is not involved with that anymore, and we keep in the communications. We're hoping we're going to be able to do that in the future, but it's kind of a three-way partnership with the school district, the city, and then quality manufacturing. So we're hoping again sometime in the future, but right now it wasn't something that worked out.
Jan, this is Bridget again. I bet you can guess what my comment's going to be since we're talking about schools. I'd love to see you reach out to Waukee School District as we open our new high school that'll be serving our Urbandale students. Will be another art program, and as we continue to develop parks out in the Dallas County portion of the community, I think it could be a great opportunity for a new partnership.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that the big piece of that is quality manufacturing. It was a big donation on their part to actually fabricate it, but I would love that. I know that the Public Art Committee loved that partnership as well, so we certainly will look into that.
All right, with that, is there a motion and a second?
The motion by Pogge. Second by Carberry Montgomery.
Discussion, please vote.
Blake, yes.
Thank you.
And that item passes. Item 6.2 is to discuss the purchase of public art. And Jan, turn back to you.
Yeah, as we just discussed, obviously in March, end of March, the current pieces will be moving and making room for the new pieces. And each year, the Public Art Committee evaluates those current sculptures. And recommendation for two of the sculptures that are currently on display to purchase. One is Flight, and I think you saw the picture that Derek worked with the professional photographer at 4th of July and took some amazing pictures with fireworks right behind the that sculpture by artist Matt Miller. And then The Sound of Color, which I have to tell you, a side note, when the derecho came through, I looked out because it does move and goes in circles when the wind blows, and that baby was moving pretty darn fast that day. So there was a piece that broke off and he came to fix it. But that is another piece that we would recommend purchasing. And then the final piece is the artist, Skip Willits. He's actually from the Des Moines area here, and it was one of the applications of the 36 applications for the art park. It's called Sunrise, and the Public Art Committee really liked that. The price was very reasonable and said, you know what, why don't we make a recommendation to purchase it now instead of paying a stipend and then later purchase it. To end up, ultimate costs would cost more than what the piece, you'd be paying twice essentially for it. And they really like that one. If you read the concept or the artist's comments about it, it's kind of meant for by a body of water. So we're recommending that by Lakeview Park. The Sound of Color at Murphy Park. And then we're recommending Flight to be at the corner of Douglas and 86th Street. I know there's the eventual goal of a development of that corner as part of the Douglas Beautification Project. But in the interim, we thought it would be a really nice spot on that corner with backlighting. It gets a lot of traffic there, and I think of just being able to complement our public arts and a lot of people being able to see it. So those are the three pieces that we're recommending for purchase. They would be purchased out of the funds that are allocated for the CIP program. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right.
Jan, this is Dave. What will that bring the total to now that we've acquired over the last number of years? I think it's great. I mean, I'm glad to see you continue this every year, acquiring 3 or 4 pieces. And so what will this bring our total to?
You know, that's a great question. I think we might be at 24 pieces.
Okay.
And that includes some that were like at the fire station. They have a piece that's not something from the Public Art Committee. but obviously we consider it part of the public art of Urbandale. But I believe it's between 20 and 30 pieces that we have throughout the community. So we get a lot of comments from people that it's noticed, and what's nice is if anybody's into public art, into art, you realize that sometimes you're not going to be able to purchase a piece for $3,000 or $2,700. A lot of times it's more of $30,000 or $27,000. So this gives us a great opportunity to introduce public art at reasonable prices.
Great, great. I especially like the one over by my place in Karen Acres North, because it
Yeah.
lights up at night and it's dark there, and it's a great landmark to tell people, just make a left or a right there at that sculpture piece that's lit up at night. That's really kind of cool.
Yeah, that one by Victoria Neiman a couple of years ago, that is a beautiful piece.
All right. With that, is there, do we have a motion and a second?
A motion by Carberry Montgomery. Second by Poggi.
Okay, discussion, please vote.
Nicole, I hit the second too slow, and it pushes you to nay. Thank you.
So corrected.
All right, and that item passes. All right, thank you. Thanks, Jan. Again, I want to echo the comments. We have some great public art, and this is just a great addition to that. So thanks for the work of the Public Art Committee and for your work on this. I appreciate that. All right.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'll pass it on.
All right. Moving on then to item 6.3, and that's to discuss the capital improvements program. And to start off the conversation, I'm going to turn it over to AJ. AJ?
Mr. Mayor, thank you, members of council. During some of your previous discussions, you expressed a desire to have a conversation among yourselves prior to the scheduled public hearing on January 12th for the annual CIP Capital Improvements Program for the city of Urbandale. As you all are aware, the mayor appoints a committee of citizens that includes also 2 council representatives who act as chair and co-chair of that committee to review the documents and programs as forwarded by staff. The CIP program, again, I won't go over a lot of ground on that, but is our 5-year program for capital projects that we intend to or wish to intend to construct in our community. That involves sidewalks, streets, stormwater, public art, as just discussed, lighting, any building improvements or construction. So it covers 12 different categories. And each year, the CIP committee reviews each of the categories page by page, asks questions of staff. We provide what I believe to be a very detailed document and detailed response on questions they have. They conduct their own public hearing, and then they forward the document with their recommendation for your consideration. This year, as I mentioned, the council had a desire to have some additional discussion before you engaged in your public hearing in January, and so this time was set aside. Last week, prior to the Christmas break, I did ask the council if you had any specifics that you would like us to prepare for tonight. Please forward those on. I did receive 5 of those from Councilmember Russell, and we can go through those, but we'd also be open to any other questions that council members may have concerning items that are included in the document. Certainly on January 12th, you'll have the opportunity once again during your public hearing to discuss those items. Just kind of one of the, I'll say a housekeeping item, but just a reminder to the council, as we remind the CIP committee as well, is that, when we put the document together, we put it together with the parameters of this is how much money we have to spend based on the anticipated debt service levy and other funds that we have available through other non-debt or non-tax related sources. Road use tax, for example, although it's a tax, it's not necessarily levied. We receive money from state or federal sources primarily for roadway projects. So we back into the projects that we have, and our first 5 years are ones that, as they work their way through the program, they work their way up as well. So if we've identified something in year 5 and it's now 3 years later, conceivably that project has worked its way up to the point of having possibly design already and ready for introduction to the CIP or included in the CIP as the design dollars, and then it's ready to go for final approval, then ultimately to council through the bidding process. The second 5 years, or the out years as we call them, are projects that we identify that at some point in time have been identified by staff, council, or the CIP committee as that we need to address or be prepared to do something about that particular issue, a roadway expansion, stormwater, whatever it may be in future years, so we can at least identify it, and when the time comes that we can associate a dollar amount to our planning process. So again, just kind of reiterating what I think you all know about this process, but it kind of sets the table, if you will, for your discussion tonight and for those items. Again, you have a public hearing scheduled. I would recommend that at this point you can identify those, but to take any particular action, I guess I would recommend that you would wait till the 12th until you add or delete items based on your public hearing as well. And one final note is that you add or delete items. Deleting items from the CIP from a financial impact standpoint is really not a problem, because what that means is either we have to levy less money or borrow less money or allocate less money from a particular fund. But adding dollars or adding projects can be a bit precarious because we have that balance that we have to try. So if you delete $1 million, you can add $1 million, so to speak. But if you delete $1 million and you want to add $2 million, then it creates a problem as far as how we've allocated our financial resources for that project. Again, we have staff online that can address those particular questions that you may have. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I would open it up to any additional comments that we have from council, or we could go straight to the questions that Councilmember Russell, as a starting point, put out to us.
All right, thanks, AJ. Any other comments from any of the other council members before we would address the ones that David brought up?
Yeah, this is Adam. I just wanted to kind of being able to chair this with Bridget and kind of reiterate some of the things that the group brought forward. In the meeting minutes, so page 165 of 166, to those that didn't read that far into the document, there are 3 recommendations that the committee also had for the council to talk about in the future. Hard and soft landscaping in roadways, getting a Central Iowa Trails water access point into future plans, as well as increasing the stormwater management dollars over time. And then a 4th one was brought up about seeking grant dollars for the solar project at the Public Works facility. So just something I hadn't seen the group do before was making recommendations outside of the actual items, and just wanted to make sure those got brought up, because we'll probably see those on future council, either work session or agenda items. So, but it was a good committee and a great process to go through, and look forward to future discussion.
Thanks, Adam. Bridget, do you have anything to add from the CIP committee perspective?
It was a very smooth process compared to some of the years I've served in the past. It was very little conflict. The one thing and I think this was one of the questions that was brought up by Dave, is I want to make sure that we are committed to, I apologize for the background noise. Someone decided to get the dog toys out. That we are committed to increasing solar in our community. There was some concern brought up by members of the CIP committee about the cost and viability of that, and felt like based on our discussions during the strategic planning process and throughout last year, that was something that we were committed to, and I hope we remain committed to expanding solar in the community and starting with the Public Works facility.
All right, thank you, Bridget. Any other comments before we discuss the points?
I was like,
Go ahead, Matt.
Councilman, I will admit that over break, I didn't get to the CIP until just yesterday reading through it. I have read through every page. I actually know what Adam was saying. I did get to that point. So I have a couple of points, but I'll wait till after Russell's and see if some of them are addressed. And I don't expect to get an answer, but I will bring up the questions because it was unfair for me not to email them in advance. So after Russell's are addressed.
Okay. You broke up a little bit there, Matt, but I think we got the gist of your comments.
Oh, good. I'm glad that my internet sucks right now. That I apologize in advance.
All right, AJ, do you want to start us off then?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. I'll read through the email that we received, and there's appropriate staff can address some of this, all of this, actually. His first one was on page 44, if you have your documents in front of you, and that refers to the Hickman Railroad Viaduct Trail Project. Estimate at this point in time is $805,000 to run the sidewalk or bike path around the railroad pier. This is something that the CIP committee spent a considerable amount of time talking about for two reasons. Number one, it's from a construction standpoint, a rather unique type of approach given the location of the current sidewalk. And if this is, just as a point of clarification, I know, Dave, if we have Dave McKay, if we have that any type of visual available on this one, but again, for a point of orientation, as you're heading west on Hickman, as you near 94th Street, near our Public Works facility, as you go under the railroad viaduct, there is that sidewalk. And over the years, last several years, we have put a new retaining wall in, and that is also a point of access that we've used for equipment in the past as well. But again, dealing with the railroad viaduct creates a real physical challenge about how you may make improvements along there. The cost originally was not as high as $805,000, but because of the engineering challenges to try to get an appropriate pathway or trail wide enough for equipment and to incorporate into the complete street theory of having a wider roadway sidewalk for bicyclists and pedestrians, it had to be re-engineered. That included incorporating that around that cement pier that holds up the railroad trestle. So that certainly accounted for a significant increase in the cost of the project. And so
I have that.
I'm sorry?
I have those diagrams if you want me to pull them up.
If you would please, Dave, that would give a nice visual.
And Nicole, can give me sharing?
Think privileges should be headed your way, Dave.
Okay. Okay, can you see that now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So maybe if I can just step back, I know you've seen. I know you've seen this 2 times now, I think, and so we'll see it a 3rd time, and maybe I can get all my points. And I've added a few more slides here, but kind of. When we started out here, we talked about Parks Department and getting equipment out of the Public Works facilities back to the east portion of the town, and that is all true. But maybe one of the more important parts here is how this fits into our Complete Streets Master Plan. And so I want to go back and kind of touch on that. This is a page out of the Complete Streets Master Plan, and if you look This is Hickman Road right here, Highway 6. And what is being proposed, if you look right here, this dashed green line that comes along here, this is Deer Creek Trail, so west of the interstate, west of 128th. We have a trail that starts through there, and this is the section where we're working with the DOT for 1.5 million to get this trail put in up close to where the interchange is. And then in some point, hopefully in the near future, we'll get a new interchange, and the DOT's commitment is that they will get that trail through the interchange. And so now with that project, we would be at a large cost, we would be to the east side of the interstate. And as you see, that dash line continues all the way through the railroad viaduct where we're talking about is right here and then on to the east. And this is a trail or separated bike lane. So basically, it's probably a 10-foot trail is what we'd be talking about. This is from the Complete Streets diagram, master plan. And this is the project we're talking about. It's 4.5 miles long because it's going from the east corporate limit all the way to Deer Creek Trail, west of the interstate. And the whole thing is to complete it long term because it's a major project. And if you look over here in the far right column was to identify obstacles along the way, and you can see right here that the bridge railroad viaduct was noted as one of the obstacles that we have to clear. One, I think, misconception that we had here was that this was 805,000 was what the cost for the work at the pier, railroad pier right here. The reality of what we're talking about, and I have a couple pictures here coming up that kind of help show that, but in our public works, Parks Public Works facility, we are putting a 10-foot trail across our frontage right here. And then on the west side of our driveway into the facility, the east side of the driveway going into our facility, this is where this project would start. So it covers everything from our driveway all the way through to coming up to the connection to the Hickman Road frontage road here. So it's quite a distance. I think it's like 15 or 1,700 feet. Okay, here's what it looks like underneath, and my take on what's here today is that this is very unsafe. Basically, we have a 3-to-1 slope. Anyone that is coming through here and happens to go off to the slope right here is into a 45 or higher speed traffic through here. It's just an unsafe situation. As far as using this area to put a trail through, the pier footing is basically right on the surface right here. And so if we were to try to widen this out here, what we would be doing is just raising the entire trail up. And so if you put a 10-foot trail in here, we're going to probably have a 4-foot wall or more right at the back of curb, which isn't going to be allowed by the DOT because it's basically a clear zone, and they aren't going to allow a fixed object within that clear zone. And a clear zone on a 45-mile-an-hour road could be substantial, like 5-6 feet. So very unlikely that we're going to be able to engineer a trail through here. And so that's why it was being proposed to cut the wall out through here and put the trail behind. Now, going back through, this is a crop section of what was being proposed. So the trail, the sidewalk is right here today. And what we would be doing is putting the trail behind, putting a retaining wall here and new slope protection up to the railroad. So this is looking east of the pier going up the hill on Hickman. So this entire wall that we have right here is going to have to be removed, and we're going to have to cut back into the hill. Um, so not only are we covering the cost of the work at the pier, but this is probably going to be like a 5-foot retaining wall all along here that runs. You can see how far it continues to go up the hill, probably 600-700 feet of retaining wall, and then looking on the west side, you can see the retaining wall runs here, and as we widen this trail out, this retaining wall back here is going to be high too. So all those costs are incorporated into that 805,000. So I just wanted to make sure we realize that we aren't talking about this piece right here, this few feet. We're talking about a fairly large section. And I'll be the first one to admit, I was the one that pulled the 250,000 last year out of thin air to do this project, and I was off by a long way. But when you look at it, we talked to the consultant about trimming the cost down. He said, "Yeah, we can probably trim cost out of the 805,000, but it's going to be nowhere near, cutting it in half or anything like that." So I guess if we're ever going to do the complete streets through here, I think this is the time to do it because we have funding that is sitting there waiting to do it. We don't have to sell TIF bonds to do the project. I do know it's a lot of money, but I don't think there's any other options that I've been able to come up with. Railroad shot down, having access up above. They want nothing crossing the tracks. They said absolutely not. They came up with the idea with going behind the pier, and so I think we have them supportive, which is a very difficult thing to get them on one side of the project or not. But so those are kind of the main things that I just wanted to run over again, is kind of how we got to this point.
Great. Hey, thanks, Dave. The missing piece was the 1,700 feet. And quite frankly, now that I know that's the number, or that now that we know, because it was not included in the description, is only 10 feet wide. And I agree. I thought maybe we were just going to go up around that pier. But if my math is right, we're 1,700 feet for $805,000. That's $50 a linear feet.
And Dave, I agree with you. We weren't very clear on what we were doing. It was a short description. But when you start looking at this piece to the east, kicking this trail out 10 feet, and the wall that you would have there, that's a lot of wall. And that's how we got into trouble west of the Interstate too, when we were working with the DOT. And in that particular case, I thought we're never going to get this bike trail in out there unless we work with the DOT to let them do it. And this is kind of a similar situation. And if we can get those two pieces done and the interchange done, we've got the tough pieces done. And then it's a matter of just our normal separated trails or recreational trails. So that's, I agree, we weren't very clear.
Well, now that I've seen it, I mean, as far as I'm concerned now that I understand it, and 1,700 feet, I remove my, objection to it. I agree with you. It's a lot of money. We certainly spend close to $1 million to go around, but if you've looked at it and there's no other route, we can't go north or go across the street, no other way. You just have to dig it out and overcome the obstacles that are in front of us. So again, thanks. I really appreciate clarifying that for me anyway.
Okay.
And like I said, I remove my objection from this particular project.
Great.
All right. Any comments on that from the council? Yeah, I think from my standpoint, I think this is a critical piece to our complete streets infrastructure, and it's a tough one to swallow, but it's also, as Dave McKay went through, it's a critical cog in this whole piece, so. All right, AJ, well, if we can move on then.
Okay, if there's no other questions, then I would refer to page 54, the Aurora Avenue Bike Trail. And I think there was some verbiage-related issues associated with that again, we will have to apologize for, because at the staff level, we certainly use terminology that at times we believe is universally accepted by the council as far as, oh, they understand what we're talking about, and along with the CIP committee. And as we're getting, as Dave made reference to the Complete Street program, I think it's a legitimate question that Dave Russell had concerning the description about the Aurora Avenue Bike Trail and how that is linked to a bike trail versus a separate bike designated area like we're going to propose on Waterford. So I think, you know, if Dave, you and I, Dave McKay, we talked about this afternoon, if you can just give a brief kind of a description of the terminology that we're using, maybe that will help in this particular situation.
Yep. Okay, Nicole. I don't know what's going on here.
Right now, Dave,
I'm
we
trying
see your shared use path PowerPoint.
Okay, good. I'm still sharing is what the point was. Okay, sorry. Okay, so terminology that's used in the Complete Streets plan, and even if you go out there and look at other documents, sometimes people use other terms, but as far as these are all pictures and descriptions that are from our Complete Streets master plan. So in Urbandale, this is typically what you see along our arterials, our shared use plans, paths, which are biking, walking, running, everything kind of combined into one 10-foot trail. And when we talk about on-street standard bike lanes, this is what we're looking at, basically just a line on the street. The bike has the outside 5-6 feet. And then we have buffered bike lanes. This is same thing, except for there's say a 2-foot painted buffer between the car and the bike. This is a protected bike lane, which you can see that there's something physically between the cars and the bikes, and that's that raised curb in this particular situation. And then you got neighborhood bikeways, which these are for areas where we don't have a trail that connects different parts of the city together. So maybe we use residential streets. We use share rows. That's what the marking is on the street there to designate that it's a neighborhood bikeway. And then we can also sign it to get through neighborhoods without having trails just on residential streets. Okay, and this is what the consultant defined as a separated bicycle lanes. So as you can see here, here's a street out here. Here's grassway. This is just one example. Ours may be wider grassway through here, but then there's a 10-foot asphalt trail, but it's 2-directional. This is for the bikes going both directions here, separated by the dash line. And then we have a 5-foot sidewalk attached. So walkers, bikers in this area. And that's what we've defined as separate bike lanes. And this is what we've gone to all of our new streets and arterials. This is what we're using. So Waterford, that we're just putting out to bid now, 170th be put out to bid next year, all will have this type of configuration with separated bike lanes. This is also separated bike lanes, street over here, 2-way bike path, and then this is just showing kind of what you do at intersections to make it clear that there's a warning right there that could be cars coming across here and such. So that's kind of the definition. On Aurora, we said separated bike lanes or trails. And so what we would be talking about is either an 8 or 10-foot trail that's separated from the street, or a separated bike lane, which would be the 15-foot, which would be the two-way bike lane plus a sidewalk attached to it. So I think it's just kind of confusing because of the terms that we're using here. But they are not, the consultant did determine that Urbandale people are not comfortable with on-street or on-street buffer or on-street bike lanes. So we weren't quite ready to go into that mode as Des Moines has been and others.
Dave, you're muted if you're trying to talk.
Okay.
Was there any concern at all, Dave, about, this proposed bike lane going by 3 schools and 3 churches? Because I know what that's like at the middle school at about 3 o'clock or 7:45 in the morning. And regardless of whether it's a shared use path or whatever, they're still going to go east and west past those driveways.
Am I still muted? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
I can now.
Okay, sorry. Did you hear anything I said when I was running through these slides?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
and-
okay.
and then-
So,
Yeah, I understand that now.
The consultant felt Aurora Avenue was a very important link to have, and I guess his view was more that it has schools and churches on it, that's an important link to have. He was not comfortable with putting it on street, but he was comfortable with putting it off street. And so the schools did not deter him whatsoever. In fact, it probably made it more important for him to put this as a high priority.
Okay. Is this something that the Urbandale School District has looked at and they understand that we're going to run a shared use bike path along and out in front of the elementary school, the high school, and the junior high?
It's been a while since this has been before the school board, so that'll be something that will have to be done as part of the process.
Okay. And again, I don't have any objection other than it just seems to me there's a lot of congestion in front of that high school and junior high school a couple times a day, and you've got a bike path going east and west in front of those schools.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of opinion, and he felt that that was kind of the need to have it there, so it could be used by the kids also.
Yeah, I would say that's a good argument to have for it, so.
Yeah, well, I understand that, it would be used. Now, some bike paths have stop signs before you can cross a street or, a busy intersection. Would that be anticipated here? And a stop sign meaning for the bicycles?
Yeah, and it could be, I think it could be. I just haven't got that. We have not got that far into the design. If you remember back on the slides that I was showing you, this one right here, I know at the intersections, the consultant's recommending having them marked out very well, so it jumps out at you that there could be danger here.
Okay.
But I can't really answer your question because I haven't got that far into it yet.
All right. Well, anyway, those are my concerns that I've expressed, and,
All right.
I don't know if anyone else has any other thoughts about it.
All right. Hearing none, I guess we can move on, AJ.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. The next item that Councilmember Russell had concerns on were on page 57, the Douglas Avenue redevelopment. If you look on that page, we did not identify any dollar amount due to the fact that we just weren't at that point in time. The comments that we received from Councilmember Russell also incorporated, the discussion about the comprehensive plan, when that would be rolling out. I know that our Community Development Director, Steve Franklin, is on the call tonight, and he and I have discussed this based on these comments, and I know that he has several points that he thinks are pertinent to raise at this point concerning the comprehensive plan. But also, I would incorporate into the discussion the discussions that we've had concerning redevelopment opportunities at Merle Hay Mall and how that could serve as a jumping off point, moving ourselves from that location westward on Douglas. When you identified this project within your strategic plan, it was unanimous that you wanted to see redevelopment opportunities along that Douglas Avenue corridor, specifically east of 86 and specifically east of 75th Street. And as you worked your way westward, you weren't exclusive that it would not continue or carry forward all the way to the city limits out west, but this was certainly the emphasis of the that we would be looking at based on the discussion we had and based on the mixed-use activity that occurs from our city limits on Douglas as you move near the Merle Hay Mall, as you move yourself westward. So I know, again, Steve's on the line. I think he had several points that he wanted to make as far as how this can build into our discussion with the comprehensive plan. And I see Steve still with us. Steve, are you still there?
AJ,
Yes.
the login is Steve. One of them is here in council chambers. So I don't know if he is on a call-in line.
Okay. I saw his name appear earlier, so. Okay, I'm at a bit of a loss then. I was hoping that we had talked earlier that he'd be prepared to have that. I will forward on to you his comments that he provided to me, about 4 or 5 that I thought made quite a bit of sense when it came to other activities that, essentially getting through the majority of 21 to see how everything shakes out associated with the pandemic. I know several of us have had conversations, and I've shared those with council, concerning what we believe to be some significant changes in not only zoning-related issues, but how zoning and comp plans are going to be moved forward, not only in our community, but other communities, based on what we've experienced in 2020, and really the outfall of what that's going to look like, not only for commercial development, but existing use of retail space and residential opportunities. The comp plan would take more than just the Douglas Avenue corridor that I've mentioned earlier into consideration, because we've also identified looking at maybe some separate development opportunities along the Plum Drive corridor from 86 to 100 and North Park as well. And as we laid those opportunities out, let's say a year ago, during budget time, obviously that was pre-COVID. When we get ourselves more into 21, we anticipate that we will slowly but surely get to a period of post-COVID. And so when that period hits, as we prepare for that, then I think it will give us a clearer picture of how we can direct our comprehensive plan discussions, which would incorporate any particular zoning changes in those locations. For example, we have identified a significant number of acreage along Plum Drive that is for commercial development. Given the marketplace and given what may change in that marketplace, is that still, for example, still an appropriate use of that land for commercial properties that we had, again, identified predominantly for Class A office development? That certainly is going to change, and that was really the gist of Steve's comments. And again, I will forward them on to you about this is such a significant event and has the potential to be such a significant game changer when it comes to land use within communities. And so that was his recommendation that that we wait for that to kind of the dust to clear, so to speak, as to where things are situated. And I think that, again, some separate conversations I've had with council members, not particularly associated with the comprehensive plan or any zoning changes associated with that, but how those changes may affect us moving forward as it affects our receipts for tax receipts, how buildings are valued, how much construction will take place, that whole landscape that will change. Instead of a very large building, office building for a client, that office needs may be shrunk in half, in thirds. It may take a significantly different look. And so I think those are very good points. And again, I do apologize. I thought we had our signals. Obviously, we got them crossed, but I will forward on to you his comments about that.
Thanks. And again, on these two items, it wasn't so much an objection as it was a clarification and a call to, hey, let's keep moving on this. Because as you know, downtown Urbandale, that business district, is in pretty sad shape. And I would like us to do anything we can to move that along. And so when you go by that corridor, the downtown Urbandale is something that we can be proud of. And I think we all agree on that. I don't think there's anybody who is happy with the condition of downtown Urbandale right now and would be willing to, say, hey, this is the pride of the city. So I just encourage staff to let's move forward here as quick as we can. I understand the limitations. I understand about the comp plan. I understand, where things are. But we've identified this as a top priority for the last 5 years. So, again, I don't have any objections to those projects. I just want some clarification and to urge staff to please, let's see if we can move this thing along. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Dave. All right. Want to open up for any other comments that anybody wants to bring tonight? Matt, did you have any you want to start on yours?
Yeah, hopefully, am I coming in clearly? Yes. Okay. My internet's apparently covered in snow and it's not working well. Most of mine are I will say kind of minor. I'll email. There is one in particular I would like to just kind of throw out and just vocalize it to because it is a little bit more major. It's page 72, and that is the section. Sorry, let me pull mine up. That is the 142nd Street Douglas Parkway to Meredith. And this is an unprogrammed at this point in time. And my thought process with this, and again, I live near this area, so that's why I was curious, is that we've had kind of that thought, that's the roundabout, if I'm correct, is that we have a high V that's going in, high V kind of going in there. We have a development of townhomes that's going right there. We have kind of another one that we have voted in the past. I just find it odd that seems like there's a lot of development that's going on in that specific area, and then we're not looking at trying to create a main artery north from there. And I just wanted to maybe have some conversation as to why it's on the unscheduled when there is anticipated development occurring.
Do you want me to cover that, AJ?
Yeah.
And you don't have to answer today, by the way. I'll just bring it.
I can answer it though.
We've had these discussions before, Councilmember Blake and Dave. Yeah, please jump in. And I would just say as a precursor is that a lot of that has to deal with the fact as you get up to Aurora on 142nd, that's where the current city limits end.
And you don't even have to go that far. You just need to get up north of Rosewood, and on the west side of the road, that's the city of Grimes. And the idea originally with swinging 142nd to the east and continuing up was at some point we'd be veering back off alignment to the west to connect up at Meredith Drive. And that piece would, taking out the 90 in the road on Aurora and 142nd would probably end up going straight north from Timberline Village and extending, swerving up through the Day Harding Farm and connecting up near 142nd and Meredith. And it's kind of tough to talk about doing that in land that's in another city. And so we've always kept it in the out year to the point where we can get those properties annexed into the city. So that's the reason we stayed away from it. We could do 4-laning for another few hundred feet going north from the roundabout, but that really doesn't do much good.
No, that's fair. Thank you. I was just curious why that was in that when we have development likely landing there. But
Yep.
I'll email my other questions tomorrow, so don't worry about that.
Okay.
And then AJ, the last comment I had was initially in my email. Am I right on looking at Nikki's bond retirement program, that she's showing that we should be in a position to lower the debt service levy from the current $60 something down to $40 something? Are we still shooting for that?
Yes, we had a conversation. Well, I think there's Nikki.
I was gonna say, I'm here. Do you want me to cover that?
Please, why don't you go ahead, Nikki, based on our conversation you and I had.
Yes, so short answer, yes, there should be still some reduction on the debt service levy. Lost funding that we are using to call and retire those bonds is still paying out as estimated on the state's payment. So that's good news for us. Thank goodness for Amazon online shopping over the COVID situation. So that's the one positive. We still have had solid sales tax revenue. So we're still calling the bonds. We have 2 schedules here for June of 21. The 22 issue that I'm prepping budget right now for that. We may be a little short. We're planning to do 3, and we might only be able to do 2 of those 3, but still moving forward with that plan until council decides there's something else you want to do with that. So that reduction will still come through. The piece that I would caveat a little is, if you look at the CIP, you'll notice that we are actually using $10 million in projects. We normally would do 6.5, and the levy reduction allowed us to go up to 7.5. But we have effectively the one project, Waterford, and I don't have that page in front of me, that is 6-point-something million by itself. So we have some huge projects in this 21 year and 22. So those 2 projects allowed us, we went through with our financial planner to work on how can we structure debt to be able to not only do one project effectively this next year. So we are able to swing that and do $10 million for the next 2 years. So that freeing up the levy by paying off those old bonds allows us to do that. So we'll still be able to have a reduction. I'm shooting for 10 cents to continue to come down on the debt service levy. Because of that, we had to go up to 10 million. So it's slightly different than what that original that I gave you last fall. For the debt service planned payoff, if we were going to completely pay off those, it was in the 26-ish cent range, but I think that we can still get 10 out of that because we're still positive on being able to continue to pay off bonds. But yes, so short answer, yes, we're still planning to reduce, not maybe as much as the full amount because we needed to do so much in capital projects, but you can see that direct offset of paying off those bonds equals doing more projects, which is exactly what lots are supposed to do for us, is satisfying that capital project need. So $10 million over the next, for both this year and next year, and then it drops back down to like 8.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
All right. Any other further discussion then from the council side on the CIP? Again, this is not an action.
This is Ron.
Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah. This is Ron. I just want to thank both Bridget and Adam for sitting on this committee and chairing it. I know that a tremendous amount of work goes into it, and thanks for doing it on behalf of the council.
And
It's
then,
always a pleasure. Thanks, Ron.
again, we will have our public hearing then in January, as AJ outlined, and then have chance for public input on that at that point. And then have chance for final council discussion on any items and priorities and changing anything after that, and pass the CIP then after the public hearing, so. All right, thank you everyone for that. We'll move on then to item 6.4, and that's to discuss the appointment of a temporary council member due to military service. And I know that there are some folks on here tonight that I know that our council and myself have received some emails on this. This is not a public hearing as such, but I will, if there are some comments, I'll ask some brief comments on that from the public on that. And we'll just get started on this. I don't think we really have a discussion. I mean, I'll just introduce the item. We've had an interview process we had 8 applicants that interviewed a little over a week ago, 8 days ago, and then the council had a discussion session last Tuesday night, a week ago, to discuss that, and we're at the point where we are looking to see if we had any further discussion from the council, and then to consider a motion and a second on one person to take the vacancy on that. So I will, I guess before we get to any, if there is anybody on the meeting from the public that would like to make some brief comments, I'll recognize you. If you could unmute and identify yourself, I'll recognize you briefly to make some comments.
My name is John Cooley, 4432 153rd Street.
All right, go ahead, John.
I think that you all received my email. I just wanted to echo kind of what I said. I think it's very important that this decision is made based on what the residents of Urbandale want, not necessarily who certain council members want. I think it's very clear the type of person that Urbandale elected with overwhelmingly support with Matt. And I think that it should be somebody that lines up with his policy goals. Thanks.
All right, thank you, John. Any further comments from the public? All right, I'm going to then open it up for council discussion. I'll recognize from the council, if you, Bridget, I'll recognize you first. Go ahead.
This has really weighed heavily on me over the last week, and so I actually wrote some comments down, which is very, very unlike me. I normally just go off the cuff, but I'm extremely disappointed in the majority of our council tonight. Well, based on last week's meeting, I guess. Councilmember Blake, my dear friend and colleague, has been called to serve our country, to leave his wife, his new baby, his family, his job, his commitment to our community, to serve our country. While each of you have commended him for his service and sacrifice, you are not truly honoring his service and sacrifice by respecting his desire to have Mary Polson temporarily replace him while he is on active duty. I would urge you to truly honor Matt's sacrifice and service, as well as the will of the Urbandale voters who overwhelmingly elected him just 14 months ago, by supporting his recommendation to appoint Mary Polson to the city council to fill his temporary vacancy. That is all.
Okay, thank you, Bridget. Any other comments from the council?
Anybody else would like to speak? I would like to go last, but if anybody else would like to speak before me.
Well,
All right. Well, then I will
Go ahead.
kind of weigh in. And again, if I go in and out, I apologize. It's the internet. But you know, last week I sat through that conversation and I kind of went and thought kind of long and hard about how I felt and how I would react to it. First, I thought I would be magnanimous and just get along, but the longer I thought about it, it did upset and disappoint me how the discussion went. We did a wonderful process, I will say that. And, you know, once I did learn, frankly, that there was an opportunity to have somebody temporarily take my seat, I was actually quite overjoyed that there would be a way to have the city council stay at 5 individuals, have somebody that could competently be here, and that I could leave and be able to maybe weigh in from time to time, but make sure that it was in good hands. We did interviews, obviously, and we had, you know, we all came to a decision that there were top 4 people, that any 4 of which would do well in my seat, myself included with some of that voting. But I was a little surprised, though, that when I recommended who I thought would be good, that the weight of the individual that is deploying, the weight of the individual of the person that's going to be replaced, and the weight of the opinion of, and I will be blunt, I've avoided talking about this up until this point, but the thousands of voters that voted me in, to basically kind of disregard that. I thought that kind of sucked. To put it, I wish there was a more eloquent word, but that it kind of sucked. You know, I know, again, my comments here are not meant towards the presumptive Adam Kaduce, presumptive individual. I have no qualms with him. I think he will do fine. My issue is that I do believe that we will differ. We do differ. It's just a matter of how we are as individuals. And I think that there were 2 individuals, in particular, Mary Polson, who I said who would more closely align with my perspective, with my point of view. You know, and everything that I'm going through at this point in time, and I know I shouldn't complain about this. A symptom of joining the military is that you deploy, and I've said that as a joke from time to time. I know this, and the voters knew this too in me, and that this was a potential something that could happen. But you know, yesterday I took a day off to try to do some errands to get ready for this deployment. I bought a year's worth of razors and shaving cream and deodorant, and I was doing all this in preparation because I have to leave. And I spent the afternoon in front of a camera spending hours reading books so my son won't forget who the hell I am when I'm gone. And I never thought that the one thing that once I found out that I had the ability to get myself replaced, I could take that weight off my shoulders and I didn't have to worry about it again. And I could put somebody in there and with the support of the fellow council members that would represent me when I am gone. And to not have that happen, it just sucks. You know, and I understand that you guys have a difference of opinion on this. I understand that. We are a legislative body, and you have that right. And I have talked to Adam Kaduce, and he says that he would be willing to listen to me, even from afar, if I have the capabilities. But ultimately, it is his vote. It's not mine. And I know that it has been brought up in the emails when it came to that I won my seat last year. And I don't like bringing this up, but I did get first place in the most contentious city council race we've had in years. And I had more votes for a council person than any council person's had in 20 years. And I think the mayor has only beaten me once, and that's when he ran uncontested, when it came to that vote count. And to disregard that, I think, is a disservice. So tonight, I understand that the vote will likely go the way it's going to go. I'm just wanted to say kind of my piece on it. Again, this isn't a lack of respect to Adam Kaduce. I do think he would do fine. But I do believe that somebody that would be more representative of who me as an individual, as what my philosophy is, how I want the community to continue to move forward in the way it does, would be somebody more in line with Mary Polson. So that is why tonight I will also, if the presumptive individual is the presumptive individual, I will likely be voting no. So I wanted to say my piece. Thank you for your time. And thank you for sitting through this. I wish we didn't have to take this vote. I wish I was going to be here, but this is the process that Uncle Sam has required of us. So thank you.
All right, thanks, Matt. Well, Adam, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't planned to make too many comments, but Matt, I empathize with the pain that you're feeling. While it wasn't service that I had to have disagreement with on a elected body, but I have had disagreements with fellow elected body members. And unlike other elected bodies above us, we are not Republican Democrat. We don't have R's and D's behind our name when we get elected. But I also know that the elected body has to continue to serve the people of the community. And we have a fiduciary responsibility. That's a word that I get to use a lot in my profession, to select who we think is going to be the best to serve the community while you're gone. So hopefully the time that you do have left with us after tonight's vote, we can continue to serve the community. And when you come back, it's a great community for you to continue to serve as well. So I hear the pain. That's not lost on me, but I also know that our responsibility is to find a candidate that will continue to serve the community going forward. So.
Dave?
I would echo several of those comments. First of all, Matt, I appreciate your service. I mean, I too have been deployed. I know what that's like. I've been in your seat. Now, I didn't have a young child at home at the time, but I spent 4 years in the service of this country during the Vietnam War. So I understand all of that and the duty, and I applaud you for that. I really do. We need more young, bright men like you to step up in this country. And quite frankly, I think you're going to be filling a more important role in the next 9 to 10 months than you would even here locally on the city council. So I thank you for that. We were told initially, or counseled initially by the mayor and our city attorney, that when the vacancy arose, you did not have the quote power or the ability to appoint your successor. And at first it was just going to be Mary, who I have no objection to. I mean, Mary and I, she knows that she and I have worked together many, many times. So it's not a matter of can Matt pick his successor, because you commented that I could put someone in my seat. Well, unfortunately, that's not how that works. That's not how the statute is written. We've received several emails over the last week, and those are some good comments, especially with respect to the quality of the candidates that came forward. And I'm excited about that. And I have advised the mayor, hey, make sure you have these folks named for future involvement in our community through that. But again, I don't believe that you have the ability to handpick your successor. Also, some people have raised that Matt's constituents who voted for him should have the say. But I would submit to you, Matt, you don't represent those who voted for you. You and I and Ron And Adam, we represent the entire city of Urbandale. And Bridget too, exactly. We are one voice. We don't have a ward system, so we all are there representing Urbandale. And so we're city council persons for everybody in Urbandale, not just for those who voted for us or those who might align with one political party or another. I believe that after vetting the process, Adam Kaduce is going to make a fine temporary replacement for you. And I look forward to working for him. And when the time comes, Mr. Mayor, I would put forth in a motion that we select as the temporary council person in Matt's absence to be Adam Kaduce. And I would conclude by saying, Matt, thank you again for your service. Godspeed, God's protection. You absolutely will be in our thoughts and prayers while you're gone. Thank you.
All right, Ron, you haven't had a chance, I'll recognize you.
Well, I wasn't gonna say very much. Matt kind of inspired me to do so, I guess. I think that, we'd all talked a lot last Tuesday, and I will be honest that one of the most difficult phone calls I ever made was immediately after that meeting when I called Mary Polson. And she's a very, very good friend of mine and would make an excellent council member. But, I never viewed this as a replacement of Matt. I viewed this as a selecting someone to fill a vacancy on the council. And I, that's two different approaches. I can understand, Matt, why you feel the way you do. But I strongly disagree that this is a slap at you or a slap in your face or anything similar to that. I think that this is a council faced with a terrible, terrible decision that we had to make, and that's what we did, or will be doing shortly. So I hope that you do not take it personally. I think everybody in the council has talked about how much we admire your service. And, hopefully it'll be a shorter deployment than what you're anticipated, and you'll be back in the summer when COVID's gone and we can all participate together. So, thank you.
All right. Well, does anyone wish to make a motion at this point?
I guess, is David's motion out there?
Well,
I
I
thought
thought he said he was intending to do it. I guess I'll ask for a formal motion at this point.
Well, I would move that.
I would move to appoint Mary Polson to the city council.
Well, Bridget, David started first. I think I'm gonna recognize David's motion first. David, do you want to finish your motion, please?
And I see the motion is in front of us, and it reads to approve resolution 258-2020, the appointment of Adam Kaduce to fill a temporary vacancy due to his military service on the Urbandale City Council. That's my formal motion.
Okay. So there is a motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I do have a second in the system from Obrecht.
Okay. So motion by Russell, second by Obrecht. Any further discussion? If not, please vote. All right, that item passes. We are at a point that, again, we've obviously had some strong disagreements on the council on that. But as I said last week, and as I'm going to continue to say tonight, we don't have an agreement on this, but, my job as mayor is to bring this council together, and we're not going to have a radical departure from where we are. Matt, you've had a tremendous input on our strategic plan. You are still going to be a council member. You will be resuming your seat when you are back here. But we had to make a decision, and then the council made the decision. So, as we move forward during this vacancy, and as Adam Kaduce takes this seat, we will work together as a council, and that's my job, is to bring together consensus and coalition, and we all have the best interests of Urbandale and our constituents at heart, and that's what I intend to see done. And I know and I'm confident that Adam will do that. And Matt, I'm confident that you will do that, even though you're not officially in your seat for this temporary period of time. And we welcome you back, hopefully sooner than later, when you can resume your seat and you are back into your elected seat. So those are my thoughts on that. So that does take us to the end of our regular agenda. We do have mayor and council items. Dave, I'll start with you tonight. Dave, you're muted.
Yeah, I thought you said Dale. I was wondering, looking around, who's that? The only thing I'd like to bring out, and I had a discussion with AJ earlier today, there's been quite a few emails floating back and forth among the council members and residents on this item, as well as other items over the past. And I would like, and if you notice, every time I responded to someone, and I did, I always carbon copied in all of you. And for transparency purposes, and just so that we're all on the same page, I've asked AJ and the mayor to, again, to stress that when one of us is sending an email addressing an issue to a constituent, or responding, because it may not even be something that the rest of us are aware of, I would ask that you please, just for transparency purposes, and so that we're all on the same page, to carbon copy in the entire council. Many times I will even bring in the AJ, and as well as the mayor, and if it pertains to something that, Dave McKay will tell you, and so will Jan, I bring them into it. And unless there's some compelling reason not to, help me out here, but I just would like us that when you send an email, reply to all so that we all are aware of what's going on. And I would appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Dave. Matt?
Yes, I believe for our next council meeting, we will be having Bravo speak to us and provide a brief presentation. So look out for that. It should be kind of bleak, unfortunately, but it's they're standing. Next, I hear the snowblowers running, and hopefully we will all get out there and be able to get our driveways cleared off. And then finally, when it comes to the deployment thing, I think I'm 26 days away from leaving. So that's my update from me.
All right, thank you, Matt. Ron?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Bridget?
I have some good news to report from DART, a very long meeting this afternoon with the Grimes City Council that I sat in on. They decided to vote against the motion to withdraw from DART. So they will be staying in DART, and we will be engaging in more specific discussions with them over the next year. Hopefully we won't go down this path again the week before Christmas with them next year, but we'll just have to wait and see. And that brings me to another issue. I believe we all received an email from Amy Kroll following up from her interview, but also commenting on how we would be reacting to the Grimesplex, I think is what they're calling it, the baseball soccer complex. And I guess I don't know if Jan or anyone has given that much thought. I guess at some point in the future, I'd like to have someone talk to us about how that might impact our facilities. I think it would have probably a positive impact on our hotel motel occupancy, but nothing in the immediate term, but just down the road as plans become more materialized. I think it's important that we pay attention to what's going on up in Grimes, and I think probably Aaron and Curtis are on that already too. So, and then as we are experiencing our really first significant snowfall of the season, of course, my thoughts turn to swimming, and I wanted to remind everyone of our discussion this summer of supplementing the cost of a pool passes at Clive. And I want to make sure that if that is something that we still have consensus around, that gets included in the budget coming up. So I see AJ shaking his head. I don't know if that's him taking notes or if it's already on the radar.
I think it is.
If I may, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, as I may, we will incorporate some dollar amount because there was a consensus from you as a council that given the uncertainty of our pool and some of the discussions still surround that, the option to cover that difference between family passes between us and the city of Clive, which they have offered still, is still a viable option for you to consider during budget. And we can get a number for your consideration at that time to incorporate.
Thank you.
Thank you. Adam?
Nothing for me tonight.
Okay, thanks. I only have my annual reminder. I sent it out on Facebook and Twitter right before this, but with the significant snowfall, make sure that if you have a fire hydrant, just remind residents to make sure you clean around that hydrant as well. I know our fire department appreciates it. That can make a big difference when there's an emergency, so they don't have to. I see Chief Holt just giving me the thumbs up, so thanks, Chief. But I cleaned. That was the last thing I did this afternoon. I've got a fire hydrant in my front yard and cleaned around it, and just want to encourage folks to don't forget about that and don't let the snow pile up around that because seconds do matter when there's an emergency. So. With that, I'll ask for a motion.
Hey, Mayor, can I jump in here? One thing I forgot, obviously,
Sure.
always something, but I think this has happened since the last meeting, but there was a fire, a significant house fire on my street, and I just can't say enough about our fire department. And thank God for Fire Station 43 being so close. There was no loss of life, no. It just so glad for the Station 43 and the commitment that our community put behind that. They were here in minutes and prevented much more significant damage. So thank you, Chief Holt, and to all of your team for your quick response, as well as other Metro Fire Departments.
Thanks, Bridget. Yep. Thank you for that follow-up, and thanks, Chief. With that, then, I'll ask for a motion and a second to adjourn.
This is Pogie. I move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second, Blake.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.